Welcome back.
Hi, thanks for watching CapriCast. He's Matt, I'm Nat, and let's get started.
At long last, the Caprica story has come to an end, but not before a painfully drawn-out first half of the season where seemingly nothing happened.
And then a slingshot into almost BSG territory, rising to an epic climax for the second half of the season.
And considering how climactic it was getting, there was a lot riding on this final episode.
Which was the antithesis of a cliffhanger, interestingly enough.
In the last 10 minutes, it was like Jane Espenson already knew this was going to be the last episode of Caprica ever.
So the question is, did it deliver? Well, let's get right into it by starting with the Greystones. Cyrus is my hero. Holy crap.
That was awesome. I wasn't sure what he was doing there, whether we were going to find out he was also working with the STO.
Exactly, it was so crazy, but when you see the gun come out and then he's like, ah! Amazing loyalty to Daniel, that was impressive.
And I really wanted to see him shoot Singh right then.
Man.
But it turns out Singh really is the top dog at the GDD, like on the planet.
He's so despicable.
Yeah, nobody has more power than him. He doesn't have to report to anybody because
No.
he single-handedly frames Daniel and Amanda, putting them on the most wanted list as terrorists.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's interesting that Caprica is a serious surveillance society, which is something I didn't really realize before, but you know what? They just wore hats and glasses, and apparently it was enough of a disguise.
I wonder if that works in Vancouver, too. I don't know. Now, Daniel figures out, thanks to basically stumbling across a holoband.
Yeah, that was
never underestimate
lucky.
It's a bad bet. Daniel's got the best lines all the time.
He's just the best character.
And I really enjoyed watching him sort of feel out, I can't interact in here. It's always great to see him interacting with the holoband. Nobody pulls it off.
And the way people
like
hack
he
it.
does.
Because he finds it the most fascinating, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's his technology.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I really thought was interesting was when he came across Dr. Not Philo.
Yeah.
No idea what his name is, but the guy who wasn't Philo, basically. And when he said to him, I'm keeping a careful list of everyone who's refused my help in the hour of need, and it's not a list you want to be on, Doctor.
He's very convincing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He's
is he
very
ever.
convincing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But you know what? When you've invented the perfect war machine, of course you invent a way to seize control of them when you're in a jam like this one.
Yeah.
Although it's kind of
weird,
exactly
I'd say.
that he didn't sort out the way to do it remotely.
Yeah, that you need a man on the inside?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well.
But there was that point when they busted in and decked that camera guy, and I was so delighted because that's the same actor that played one of the jerks from the Pegasus in Battlestar Galactica that was all for raping Cylons.
Which, again, Matt's memory superpowers made him remember that. I didn't, but as soon as he mentioned it, I was just like, oh, because that was one of the most, probably the most horrific part of all of Battlestar for me.
Easily.
Yeah, I hate
But
it.
one of the more horrific parts of Caprica might have been the anthem.
Oh!
Wow!
What was that?
It was great that it was sung by like a fat version of Ronald D. Moore, though. That cracked me up. And I loved that beer is in the anthem, not once, but twice. That was a pretty sweet anthem in that
Oh my
way.
gosh, although when those jets came in overhead,
Yes.
oh man.
I could really feel an Attack of the Clones moment coming on. It was quite obvious.
Although
what
I've
was
got to say,
happening.
it was weird to see the robots that have like the wireless capabilities. You know, they were gesturing with the army hand signals, and I was just like, wow, they're very graceful.
Yeah, maybe they have radio silence for some reason.
Very
it was
graceful.
weird, but it was badass. So I was all right with it.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
because of this, the Empire came to be reliant on the clone troop. I mean, no. The colonies, right. The colonies became reliant on the Cylons.
Oh, I see some parallels here,
yeah,
Matt.
Yeah, there it is. Now, it's funny, because when you think about it, this being the event that galvanized Cylons as part of society,
Yeah.
there would be one less genocide if the Monads just blew up the pyramid arena.
Oh, the Monads. As for Clarice, which is, you know, ties right in, she has never looked like more of an idiot than she did in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened?
She's been on a slide, a
Yeah,
down
she
slide,
was
that slope.
kind of, you know, sinister and manipulative and fanatical, but she was never
a Batman
idiot.
goon.
Yeah, and
No,
she's
a
such a
Batman
coward
goon. Yeah.
for conveniently, you know, not having an avatar and needing to miss out on killing herself and, you know, blaming it on it's the will of God.
Yeah. Oh, that was
Oh my
hilarious.
gosh. And then when Zoe meets her in heaven and tells her, wait, if people realize they can come to heaven no matter what they do when they're alive, it'll be utter chaos in real life. And then, yeah, her reaction just being like, what do you mean?
You've been to V-World, Clarice. What the? She
Oh my
just
gosh.
seems so stupid.
I don't know, yeah.
And really, when you have a V-World heaven and your V-World angry god shows up, prepare to be smoted.
Which is why I
Awesome.
died and cracked up when you come to the real world and you see her servers exploding. I mean, like, our websites have a backup, and you're telling me that Clarice's heaven didn't have a backup? I thought Nestor was supposed to be brilliant. Willie really is dead, and the Adamas are mourning at this point. Yeah,
And it was
sad.
amazing how fast the Guatrau's men splintered off because of it. It's a catalyst for a gang war.
Now, Joe has lost his whole family in a few months. Now, we can definitely see how Bill Adama's dad wound up being such a tough SOB.
Oh, and Fidelia has some stones coming to
gosh.
the grieving Adamas to negotiate.
Now, Joseph looked like a real mafia don sitting across the Guatrau in the virtual table.
Yes, that was badass.
It was
and the
interesting.
Guatrau gasping for air in View World.
I knew it.
For a moment, you're like, what's going on? And then you know exactly.
I definitely knew what was happening. And when it brought it back to the real world and you see that, Sam is suffocating
him to
him.
death.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty crazy.
I love that he was asking for a knife. And what did they do? They gave him the pills that dirt eaters die with. Wow. Like, that's savage and awesome and so
Brutal.
appropriate.
And Fiddy gives her father the coin for his journey, which is...
I wonder if that was 50 cents or 50's cents.
Oh my gosh, Matt.
Oh boy.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
I was really hoping that somehow Yosef was about to become the new Guatrau, even though it didn't really make any sense, but I'm sure they could have invented some highfalutin Toron tradition on the spot that would have served to explain that whole problem.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. But I've got to say, it's a little terrifying that she is the new Guatrau, since she's the one that manipulated her dad to put the hit on the Adamas in the first place. I mean,
kinda
the
makes you
old
wonder.
Guatrau was corrupted, but the new one is young, intelligent, and sneaky. That's a little terrifying.
Now, this is where things got interesting, because normally you would think an ending to a season would just sort of toss into what the next season might be about. But this wrapped things up in a very unique way, very
Absolutely.
unlike Battlestar Galactica. And I loved seeing Cylons integrated into society in the years to come. They are the working class, but they're fully integrated nevertheless.
Now, Greystone's actions at the stadium is what put the development of the U-87s and their integration on fast forward, essentially.
Now, I do call bullshit on the whole "you're named after my father" Toron tradition that they also invented on the spot, because if that really mattered, Apollo would have been Captain Joe Adama, not Lee Adama. This whole Toronification of the Adama family for the purposes of this show, it hit a wall for me right there. This retcon, I call bullshit.
Well, good on you for catching that. For me, Bill Adama looked like a Fremen.
Yes, blue within blue eyes.
Yeah, but that's the one that becomes Admiral Papadama. So you know what? That's sweet. I think it's cool.
And you know what? I really was expecting him to just look right at the camera and say, "Do your job," in Bill Adama's voice. Edward James Olmos. It would have been awesome. Now, back on Geminon. It was awesome to see Lacey, the only time in the whole episode,
my
as
gosh.
the Blessed Mother.
That was
Fill
cool.
in the blanks yourself.
to what
but when
happened.
she said, "I think you should kneel," that was the best line she has ever delivered, and I loved it.
It was good. And
great.
Clarice, who's still alive, becomes some monotheistic priest preaching to the Cylons. She's brainwashing them to ultimately become the human-hating, freedom-seeking machines they become.
Now, it was very weird to see Zoe in that scene
Yes.
in the sermon because she hates Clarice, but it was obviously the angel Zoe because...
Oh, obviously.
Well, the skin job wasn't made until the next scene. It
Right.
wasn't a montage. That was happening in order. So, considering that, Zoe being given skin in the next scene makes some sense.
Yeah,
but it's
I
still
find it
pretty
interesting
vague.
that it didn't take too long for her to get skin, though.
Well, see, it's an important thing to remember that that's not a skin job. That's a robot covered in some kind of plastic that looks like skin.
True.
Very,
I
very
got
different.
pretty nerdy about that resurrection tub, though. Resurrection tub 1.0. Like, I thought it was
Exactly.
cool.
Looks a little more like a jacuzzi. It will eventually evolve into a bathtub. But, starting as a jacuzzi, hot tub's on the way.
It was sweet.
Now, it was not an organic Zoe. So whatever that technology is, maybe Zoe develops it as she goes kind of positronic man.
Maybe.
In between here and the 12 models that we saw in BSG.
Although it's interesting because the Greystones technology must not have gotten into the hands of Cylons since they were all still experimenting with it, with like the hybrids when Husker found their base ship.
Yeah, or maybe just wrapping yourself in some kind of skin wasn't enough for them. They wanted real human bodies.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, since Caprica bought the farm prematurely, I'm going to suggest something that someone in the writer's room probably should have back when they were breaking out all the episodes in the season. Since Tamara was nowhere to be seen in this finale, she clearly was irrelevant. She could have stayed dead after she de-rezzed in the pilot and still had the same effect on Joe.
Yeah.
Then, we could have sped right along to this hugely satisfying story in the mid-season break with no disruption, instead of meandering through these go-nowhere plot lines that force the U-87 driving a bad CG van to to try to keep viewers' attention over the half-year break. Come on, that left this kick-ass Cylon rescue op to the point where the network had already made its decision about the show's fate. Lame.
Yeah. You know what? I can't disagree with you. I mean, the entire series could have condensed into the first half of the season and started from here in the second half. I mean, Sci-Fi should have greenlit a smaller 6-episode first season of just gripping, compelling stuff, which is what we got in the second half of the season.
Just saying. I mean, at least it ended with the same kind of moment that we got in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, exactly. Where
as
BSG
robots are becoming
integrating
expected.
into society,
Yeah.
evolving and integrating into society.
You expect to see a robot instead of a
I
human.
appreciated the parallel. You know what? Hopefully things are better with Blood and Chrome. I mean, it's certainly even more fodder for people like us.
Well, more
BSG
continuity porn, because now there's not just one at one end that we can tie to. We can tie from one end to the other. We
exactly.
Can have
Blood and
Caprica
Chrome
moments,
bridges the gap between the two series.
Yes, so it will be nice to see if they acknowledge Caprica, the failure that it is, if they acknowledge the fact that there is some cool storytelling that happened.
No, they're supposed to be doing it. Well, at least that's what I read, so we'll see whether it's true.
I hope so. Well, it'll be very cool to see the shape of things to come in that way. Now, a 2-hour pilot, series anyone, it will take place in the 10th year of the first Cylon War, which means there will be lots of action. So we'll only be seeing the gunner versions, not the dog-walking versions.
No, all we know that is about Ensign William Adama, barely in his 20s, and he's assigned to the Galactica. And they've actually announced one more character, a female, that's like a software engineer, but they haven't cast her yet. But apparently she's very close to Adama, but that's all that's been mentioned about it.
Interesting. Now, because we're going to be back on Galactica, the BSG-75, I guess that means the new show will get to be called BSG Cast.
Oh my
Very
God,
nice.
we're back.
And hopefully we'll be critiquing a show that maintains themes of politics, social propaganda, and the timeless question, what does it mean to be human?
This is something that this series does very well.
Absolutely. Well, with luck, we will see you back here soon with some exciting news and interviews and maybe something a little special if the January Caprica Marathon goes well.
But in the meantime, be sure to catch us previewing and reviewing fan favorite genre movies over at, YourGeekNews.com.